I'm Marella Fernandez. Welcome to Market Call here on BNN Bloomberg. Christine Poole is on the show today. She's co-chief investment officer at Davis Rea and will be taking your questions on North American large caps. You can call us toll free, 1-855-326-6266, or you can send us an email, marketcall@bnnbloomberg.ca. Christine, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going on just today. We have another tariff threat by Donald Trump, this time on softwood lumber. But that's been an irritant between our countries for decades now. I'm wondering if the follow-through comes with that threat, what that looks like for the Canadian economy, considering we have the anti-dumping duties already on there.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens because, as you know, Marilla, he announces potential tariffs, but there's always a delayed implementation date, or in this case, I don't think he's actually even given a specific date.
He is not.
And we know that the U.S. needs our lumber. They can't supply it domestically. I think I read somewhere that they need about 25 to 30% of their needs are supplied by Canadian lumber. So in the long run, if these tariffs do get implemented fully, 25%, it will hurt the home builders in the U.S. because they're going to have to raise prices. And eventually that's going to hurt the housing market because consumers will experience higher home prices. So it's a negative overall. So we'll have to see how it materializes if he actually implements the full 25%.
So let's talk about inflation for a moment, because many are saying exactly what you're alluding to. Inflation is going to go up in the U.S. with everything costing them so much more. Do you see that, and do you see it as a short-lived period until they adjust?
Well, yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because tariffs are kind of like a supply shock if they get implemented. And what could actually happen is stagflation, which no one really wants. Stagflation is high inflation and slowing economic growth, because from a monetary point of view, central banks, when you have high inflation, they start raising interest rates because they want to slow demand. But at the same time, in this case, it's going to erode consumer purchasing power, which will eventually maybe slow economic growth and increase unemployment. So usually when unemployment is rising, you cut interest rates. So the central banks are kind of dealing with that dilemma right now. And so I think we saw Fed Powell's minutes come out yesterday, and they're kind of wait and see because inflation does appear to be a bit stickier in the U.S. than in Canada. It's come down quite a bit in Canada, and so our central bank has been cutting rates much more rapidly. But in the U.S., their overall economic situation is healthier than in Canada. So they're kind of taking a wait and see attitude to see what actually materializes, I think, in terms of the tariffs, because there's a lot of uncertainty. Yeah,
right now they're not expecting to cut rates until the end of the year. But from what you're reading about the conversations that they're having, are they anticipating that these threats are not going to have the follow through, that this is a bluff by the Trump administration to renegotiate?
Well, when you say, I think you look at the financial markets, because even though we're off today, but they're all near record highs. Like the S&P 500 actually reached a new high, I think, a couple days ago.
Yes.
And even the TSX is up 3% year to date. So I think what tells me is that the financial markets are not thinking it's going to be fully implemented. Because if they actually do fully implement these tariffs, it's going to be very bad for the Canadian economy. And so our stock market is going to be eventually, it's going to be hit. So I think the markets are thinking that it's maybe a negotiation tool, but we'll have to see how it all plays out.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Christine Poole. She's co-chief investment officer at Davis Rea, and she's taking your questions on North American large caps. We're back in a moment.